Will Scott Peterson get a new trial? Hi there, I'm Michelle Hagan, and I'm a legal analyst and a former prosecutor. You may recognize me. I've provided a lot of legal analysis on the Elizabeth Holmes fraud trial, and the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and a host of others. So several of you have reached out, and thank you very much for doing that, and thank you for subscribing, and do subscribe. Have reached out and asked me, where can we find more of your legal analysis? So I created this channel to share my analysis with you, and also to get what your take is and where your analysis is on this, because this is simply my opinion. So we're going to take a look at who the DA, the district attorney, the prosecutor, is going to call in this upcoming hearing where Scott Peterson wants a new trial to say that juror number 7 committed prejudicial misconduct, therefore he didn't get a fair trial, and his conviction should be thrown out. So who are the prosecutions going to call as their witnesses, and what evidence will they present? So we're going to take a look at their witness list and their evidence list. I'm going to give you a preview of what I think these witnesses are going to say and what this evidence will show. So let's take a look at the witness list here. All right, and before I get into this, I forgot to say, let me give you a quick background here on what it is that Scott Peterson is alleging. Okay, he's alleging that juror number 7, Richelle Nice, failed to provide information on the written questionnaire that she filled out during jury selection process. In other words, she concealed information, specifically that she had been a victim in a domestic violence case. When she was asked on the questionnaire, have you been a victim of a crime? She answered no. And that's because she didn't consider herself to be a victim, and she didn't consider the behavior that her ex-boyfriend engaged in to be a crime. So in her mind, it wasn't a crime and she wasn't a victim, so she answered no. She also was asked whether she was involved in a prior lawsuit on that questionnaire. She also answered no. And that relates to a restraining order that she had against her ex-boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. And she didn't consider, Richelle Nice says in her declaration, and you can look at the video I did on her declaration, as well as the Stelter versus Witch Hunt video, which will be very helpful to give you some more information, some more background information. Anyway, regarding the temporary restraining order against the boyfriend's ex-girlfriend, she didn't think that constituted a lawsuit because it wasn't involving property or money. So she answered no. So is that concealing her bias? And what other evidence is there that Peterson's going to claim constitute bias on behalf of Richelle Nice? Okay, so let's look at the DA's witness list. And again, they're going to put on, the prosecution will put on a case if Scott Peterson is able to meet his burden, because he goes first at this hearing next Friday on the 25th of February in San Mateo Superior Court. He goes first by putting on his witnesses and his evidence to meet his burden of proof, which is to show that there's prejudicial misconduct. If he meets that burden of proof, then the district attorney, the prosecution, puts on their witnesses and their evidence to rebut that presumption. I can't speak. To rebut the presumption of prejudice against Scott Peterson. All right, so let's take a look at the witness list that the DA has indicated. Now, again, these are witnesses that they may or may not call, but they intend to call at this point. And I'll give you a preview of who these witnesses are. So as you see, we have witness 1, 2, and 3 are basically district attorney investigators. We have we have investigator Craig Grogan from the Stanislaus County DA's office. We have San Mateo County County Senior DA Inspector Bill Massey. Sorry, it's been a long week for me. And we have Santa Clara County Senior Criminal Investigator Nate Wandruff. And again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing anybody's names. We have juror number 7, who is Richelle Nice. And we have Elliot Silver and Nagad Zaki, who are attorneys, and I'll tell you about them too. All right, so let me look at my notes here. First witness here, DA investigator Craig Grogan. He is going to be talking about, if he's called as a witness, he's basically the main investigator on this case for the DA's office. What he's done is he's reached out to these other investigators and asked them if they have records, because they've been trying to find the records regarding the prior domestic violence case where Richelle Nice was a victim back in 2001. They're also trying to find out, there was a vandalism in 2000 which involved the slashing of the tires of her ex-boyfriend's car, not her car, but they want to get those police reports as well and find out what happened in that case. And they're also trying to find the records on the restraining order that Richelle Nice had against a woman by the name of Marcella Kinsey, who was the ex-girlfriend, the prior girlfriend of Richelle Nice's boyfriend. I hope you're following all that. Maybe I should do a flow chart. Anyway, so Craig Grogan was looking for the records regarding, Inspector Grogan was looking for the records regarding the domestic violence, any police reports, court records, that kind of stuff. Inspector Bill Massey was with the Modesto Police Department, and he was also looking for the domestic violence records relating to the domestic violence incident that took place between Richelle Nice and her boyfriend at East Palo Alto. I think he's probably going to be testifying that they don't have the records because they're too old. It's back in 2007. He may also give testimony regarding their Odyssey system, which is what they use to keep track of records, and what's called the RIMS, which is internal computer-generated reports, again, regarding the domestic violence, and possibly the vandalism case back in 2000. Then we have Santa Clara County. This is witness number 3, Santa Clara County Senior Investigator Nate Wendriff. And again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing people's names. He is probably going to be giving testimony regarding the records that Mountain View Police Department has or does not have regarding the vandalism, the slashing of the tires incident. And I think he's probably going to be testifying that those records have been purged. So basically, these 3 gentlemen are being called as witnesses to lay the foundation to say whether or not there are police records relating to the vandalism, the domestic violence, and the restraining order involving Richelle Nice or not involving Richelle Nice. So we'll find out. Okay, so speaking of Richelle Nice, juror number 7, she may be called by the prosecution to give testimony as to whether or not she has any bias against Scott Peterson. Did she bear any animus towards Scott Peterson? Did she lie to get on the panel? Is she a stealth juror? We're going to find out what she has to say. And again, I'll refer you to my video that I did on her declaration, so you can read for yourself what she said about what happened when she was filling out that questionnaire and whether or not she concealed any information. Okay, then the remaining 2 witnesses are Elliot Silver and Nagad Zaki. So witness number 5, Elliot Silver, he's an attorney, and he's probably going to be testifying that he represented Richelle Nice. He's going to talk about the toll that this has taken on her life, being a juror in this case, and now having the focus on her, and depending on what she says and what happens in that hearing, she may be vilified. She's forced to defend herself, are probably things he's going to testify to if he's allowed to testify, and how she's under a lot of pressure. She's stuck in the middle of all of this, and she may be vilified because if Scott Peterson gets off or doesn't get a new trial, she can't win in this situation, right? So then there's the other attorney, and this is Mr. Nagad Zaki, who also represented Richelle Nice. And he's probably going to be testifying about, again, the pressure that she was under, and basically she's put in a position of being a punching bag. having to come in and talk about what happened during jury selection and whether or not she has a bias. You know, what is that? Is my math right? 18 years later, after the 2004 conviction of Scott Peterson, he's probably also going to be testifying how it's an overwhelming process that she went through for everybody, for all the jurors, for the prospective jurors, for the judge, for the counsel, for all the witnesses, and that, again, she was probably, she came in to serve as a juror as her civic duty, and now she's having to go through this process and basically being a punching bag. So, again, if these two attorneys testify, we will see. And if any of these 6 witnesses that the DA has indicated that they may be calling, they don't have to call them, but they're just putting everyone on notice that they intend to call them. And you can see right here, the people expressly reserve the right to call additional witnesses whose need is not apparent at the time of this writing or whose identity is subsequently discovered and whose testimony becomes necessary for rebuttal purposes. So again, it depends on what the testimony is, what the evidence that comes out when Scott Peterson puts on his witnesses and his evidence. And then at that time, the district attorney will decide whether or not they're going to be putting on their evidence and who else they may be calling to rebut any of the claims made by Scott Peterson. So that's the preview that I have for you regarding the witnesses and the evidence. Oh, I forgot to look at the evidence. Sorry. We're going to look at Peterson exhibits here. So this is the respondents exhibit list, and respondents again is the district attorney. So they're letting us know what exhibits they're going to be entering as evidence. And here they say, respondent asks the courts to take judicial notice of respondent's pleadings for the hearing coming up. So they're not telling us whether they're going to be presenting police records, they're going to be calling police records or any written declarations or any kind of documents out there. They're just asking the court to simply take judicial notice of their pleadings. That would mean all the pleadings, which by the way include juror number 7's declaration, other declarations from other jurors, any affidavits, any police records, any kind of printouts internally through the police department system or the court records. Those exhibits have already been introduced and filed with the court as part of their pleadings. So that's what that means. They're asking the court to take judicial notice, in other words, for the judge to notice that all of these potential exhibits have already been filed, and they are maybe entering them into evidence, depending on, again, what Peterson has to say. So I wanted to give you just a quick run at the witnesses and the exhibits by the prosecution as a preview for the hearing coming up on February 25th. Let's see what else. So I hope that's been informative to you, and let me see what else. So, again, we're going to see what happens. We don't know what these witnesses are going to say. We don't know what other additional evidence there may be. It's all moving parts. We never know what happens until we're in there and people are giving testimony and we think, oh, we need to call so-and-so. It depends on what comes up. And again, it's up to the judge to decide whether Scott Peterson gets a new trial, whether he's met his burden to show that there's prejudicial misconduct. And that's also assuming that the DA is not able to rebut that and show that there is no prejudice. And again, it's up to the judge to make that call as to whether or not his conviction gets thrown out and whether or not he gets a new trial. So thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe and share these videos. And I look forward to reading your comments. And thank you very much for watching.